A State Department staffer resigned yesterday in response to Biden's ongoing Gaza policy. Anel Sheline,
who we've had on the show before, actually.
Have we had her on the show?
She used to write for Quincy about some of the ongoing stuff in Yemen. Anel Sheline, yeah. She's great.
Okay. And she's been working in the Bureau of Democracy in the State Department, Human Rights and Labor, as a foreign affairs officer. Half that time that she's been there, obviously, Israel has been launching an assault on Gaza. In an interview, Sheline said that her focus had been promoting human rights in the Middle East and North Africa, work that was complicated by Israel's war in Gaza, and a host of accompanying moral, legal, security, and diplomatic implications for the United States. She said she tries to raise concerns internally with dissent cables and at staff forums, but eventually concluded it was pointless. Quote, as long as the U.S. continues to send a steady stream of weapons to Israel. Wasn't really able to do my job anymore, Sheline said. Trying to advocate for human rights just became impossible. And I will say this damage that Biden administration has done to what was already a tenuous standing within the world, our standing, I think is something we're going to be dealing with for a long time. Joe Biden came in. And the promise was, I'm going to reestablish U.S. standing amongst internationally. And I think it's becoming increasingly clear to the Biden administration, well, maybe it's not, but certainly others, that he has failed in that regard, particularly in the wake of yesterday's certifying that Israel is somehow not blocking aid to Gaza and has been waging this so-called war with U.S. weapons in a way that does not violate international norms. Here is President Biden at an event in North Carolina on yesterday. Protesters, well, you can check this out.
And to remind all of us, we can't take anything for granted. Just think back before the ACA. A patient with a heart disease, diabetes, or a child with asthma couldn't get coverage. Why? Because the insurance company considered those a pre-existing condition that allowed them to deny coverage. Everybody deserves health care. Be patient with them. They have a point. We need to get a lot more care into the process. But folks, back to the subject.
Don't know who those folks were affiliated with, but kudos to these protesters. What is really difficult to square is people standing up, applauding the fact that we need to get more aid in there, and there's this notion that somehow there's we're talking about this in the passive sense.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we need to get more aid in there. And there's an obstacle to getting more aid in there. And that is the Israeli government refuses to allow aid in there. Or at least at this juncture, they are refusing to allow sufficient aid in there. I mean, that's just indisputable. They are allowing, in some instances, protesters to block the vehicles and allowing them to do the work. In other instances, they are holding up sort of administratively trucks that could come in through Rafah. There's no dispute over this. There are roads that go into Gaza. Prior to October 7th, 500 trucks a day. You cannot, to the extent that Biden has had a plan to sort of ask nicely to the Israelis to allow in aid, it has failed. Do we have that stuff from Worcester?
Yep. 1 second.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah.
Here's some footage of some, if not now, when protesters in Worcester, Massachusetts. And I am a fan of Jim McGovern, Worcester congressman, but it is Congress needs to start speaking out. There are senators who have done this. Congress needs to start speaking out. And this is an interfaith group in Worcester, I should say. Hakeem Jeffries was there with Jim McGovern at a fundraiser, and good for these folks.
Keep suffering. You accepted $300,000 from AIPAC while U.S. bombs were dropped on Gaza. No more funds for genocide.
15,000 children have been killed, Hakeem.
Good stuff. There were protesters outside the building, too, I should say.
I mean, yeah, like, to the extent that, like, you know, some event like this is happening with these folks, I mean, you have to, make a statement like this. And it's fascinating to see the change in the room go from Biden handling this better, saying, be patient with them.
Yep.
They have a point, because like, I wonder to the extent people in these rooms understand that they are kind of a historical marker for how this is changing. And this, it does represent a change from let's applaud this aid passively somehow not getting into Gaza instead of what we were doing months ago, which was to shout 4 more years at these people. Right.
I mean, I think there's a growing awareness. I mean, look, the polling today, or I should say polling that came out yesterday, Gallup poll. Do you have this?
Yeah, 1 second. I'll get it up.
This graph is pretty impressive. In November, and I mean, in November, you had over 50%, I think it was, of Americans felt that approved of what Israel was doing. 50%. 45% disapproved. By March 2024, 36% approved of what Israel was doing. 55% disapprove. Now 9% have no opinion, which suggests to me that people who are, though there's about 4 or 5% right there that are going to be in a week or two disapproving of what's going on. I mean, aside of the moral implications, the political implications are obvious. Yeah, this is the one. Good for the American public. I hope they're listening in the White House. Here is Jamal Bowman in Queens this past weekend at a Fight AIPAC event. Understand the other thing that's happening here is that AIPAC, funded by right-wing Republicans for the most part, are financing challenges to progressive Democrats across the country. They are threatening to enter into races against progressive Democrats across the country. It's a twofer for them. And for some of their funders, all they care about is less unions. For others, it's, well, I want to support Israel, and also I want to make sure that we never have to talk about the child tax credit in the event that the Democrats take both houses and Biden wins next term. And so the folks like Jamal Bowman fighting back. This is good stuff.
So we're doubling up and doubling up and doubling up. And so AIPAC is scared to death of us doubling up some more. So now they're coming at us with everything they have. $100 million, they put it on the table. $100 million. CEO of LinkedIn, CEO of OnlyFans, right? OnlyFans. Putting in money to get us out of Congress. Why? Simply because we're fighting for the humanity and justice for all people? Simply because we do not support war crimes? We don't support an occupation? And we don't support black and brown babies in our own districts being killed? While being ignored by this political system that has been taken over by big money and politics. That's why. But we know throughout American history, throughout human history, everyone who fights for freedom, justice, and equality gets attacked. That's right. And gets targeted. And gets bullied. Everyone who does that. Yeah. So we, Alex, have to wear this as a badge of honor. That's right. But we all need to wear it as a badge of honor because we are the resistance. Yeah! In Star Wars, we Luke Skywalker in there. We the Jedis, fighting back against this oppressive system.
Jabal moment this past weekend, and of course, that was a day after AOC had given her speech on the House floor. Day before she went on CNN, to opportunity to defend that speech. So hopefully things are turning.
Yeah, I think, we've talked a lot about Fetterman and his arc and how dismaying it is, but I also think we should focus on, Bowman got in hot water with the DSA because of, I believe, a DMFI trip to Israel, and they, I believe, endorsed him. Since then, he has moved correctly on this issue, and like Greg Casar has in Texas, who also, ducked the issue, frankly, in the campaign, I think kind of intentionally, but actually has, now that he's in office, representing his constituents, who want a ceasefire.
Right. I mean, I think, look, there's no doubt that it's an intimidating force to have $100 million ready to be deployed against you, even if it isn't or it is, it becomes a real intimidating tool. And we got to support people who fight against that. I mean, I think that's, I hope that's obvious to people.